Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie Schneiderite. We have another win to talk about. Rutgers is a bit of a road warrior right now. They've won their second road game in a row, this time going down to College Park, winning a thriller, some might say, 56-53 over the Terps. Really? Rutgers was a 7.5-point dog in this one. They found a way to win. I actually had some money on Rutgers money line, so I'm pretty happy about this game. Team showed a ton of grit. This was a very low scoring game. I think after 12 minutes in the first half, it was 15-8. This was kind of expected. Rutgers is in the 300s in terms of offensive ranking on or adjusted offense on KenPom. They're third. Or they were third in adjusted defense. Maryland was top 10 in adjusted defense and somewhere near 200 in adjusted offense. So the game certainly lived up to its billing of a defensive rock fight. Just talk about what you saw in this game that was kind of encouraging for Rutgers basketball.
Well, I don't even want to say anything about the first half because that was just, I don't know. I don't know what that was. That was arguably the worst offensive performance between two basketball teams in the country this season for the first 20 minutes of play. But the defense was good, so we can say that. I thought the defense
was 24-22 at halftime for those who forgot.
Yeah, both teams shot under 30% for the first half. There was a combined 2 of 18 from 3 in the first half. That is just disgusting. Luckily, for anyone that did watch, the second half was a whole hell lot better, at least from Rutgers' perspective. Maryland a little bit better. But yeah, no, I think I don't know what Pike told his team at halftime, but hell of a speech had to be because these guys turned it on quite a bit. Derek Simpson had a much better second half, calmed down a little bit, went 0-7 in the first half, 2 of 2 in the second half. It's a nightly basis with most of these guys, and I'm not just singling out him because Mag's the same way, Cliff's the same way, Hyatt, Fernandez, they're all kind of the same. Michael Davis, it's the same thing. It's just so much inconsistency that I really don't understand how to predict this team, and I don't think anyone does. You see it with you could say it specifically with the odds makers. Like they were going into this one, double-digit underdogs, 10 points at one point?
I didn't see 10. I saw 7.5, but maybe I missed a bigger number.
On bracketologist.com, it said 10 going into this one, like an hour left. Okay. But yeah, besides the point, 7.5-point underdogs is a pretty big gap. And like I said, this team is just so hard to predict, but they turned it on in the second half offensively. Started hitting their shots, took less threes. It's crazy how that works, right? Take less threes and you hit more. Weird. Take less 18-footers, you hit more. Wow, weird. It was an overall group effort. It wasn't just one or two guys. Don't get me wrong, Jeremiah Williams had a great second half. Mag had a great second half. But you also got key contributions from Cliff at times, Jermichael Davis at times, Derek Simpson at times. And then the defense was just – I don't know how to put it other than this is like a hounding defense. You just saw guys all over the place. Mags running around literally like on top of opposing on offensive players. Jeremiah Williams is just such a difference maker for this team, and he's brought so much juice, and you finally have that alpha type guy. But yeah, this is just a huge, huge win for Rutgers, and it also gets you back-to-back away game wins for the first time in God knows how long. I think the stat's out there on Twitter. I actually think Fonseca posted it, but this is a huge win for Rutgers, and you get to have Kevin Willard's number once again. And I don't want to tease this too much, but I feel like this is starting to become a little rivalry here between Rutgers and Maryland, whether fans want to admit it or not, on every playing surface.
Yeah, I mean, Rutgers hasn't really been competitive against Maryland on the gridiron for a while, but they've won 5 of the last 7 games against the Terps in basketball. I think this series, Rutgers never played Maryland until they joined the Big Ten, believe it or not, in basketball, which is weird given that they're so close, and Rutgers seems to have played everybody in basketball. But yeah, Rutgers, they were just a bit out of control in the first half on offense. They had 11 turnovers in the first half. They finished the game with 15, so they only had 4 in the second half, so they certainly cleaned things up there. I think the thing that really kind of impressed me is Pikel's coaching job through all this, because you saw some pretty bad officiating at points. You know, you can look to the hockey check on Mwat Mag, and then the next possession on the opposite side of the court, Cliff gets called for this kind of bogus boxing out but on Angel
Mm-hmm.
Reese to give him his third foul. You see the double techs.
Angel Reese?
Not Angel Reese. I'm sorry, I forget his name.
I think it's
There's
Julian.
Julian Reese. Yeah, I'm thinking
Yeah.
of the LSU player.
I know. That's why it just made me
Yeah,
laugh.
my bad. You see the double techs on Reese and Jeremiah Williams. That also gives Jeremiah Williams his third foul in the first half. So your two best players are, limited with foul because they're in foul trouble. And this game never really felt out of touch. Like we've gone through this vicious cycle over the last month where every single game gets away from us in the first half, and that didn't happen tonight. This was the first game in the last 6 games where Rutgers didn't have an 8+ point deficit in the first half at some point. So the last time that didn't happen was January 9th against Indiana. So you're just seeing the same script over and over where Rutgers gets down big early. They try and claw back. They get it down to a small deficit of, between 2 and 4 points, but they can never really figure out how to close the game out, except for obviously Michigan and Nebraska. But for the most part, it's just been, getting down big and then trying to claw back. Super low scoring game, as we kind of said, 15-8 in the first half at some point with 12 minutes left. This is also a game where I thought Rutgers played so well. They had such a great defensive game plan for how to handle Jameer Young, who was really their only true offensive threat. Like coming into this game, he was averaging over 20 points a game. And he still, if you look at just the numbers, he had a decent outcome. But, he scored most of his points from the line. He shot 3 of 17. And that's in large part because Derek Simpson and JaMychal Davis totally locked the guy down. He was getting basically no clean looks from the outside. And also, you got to give the big guys a lot of credit too. He went 1 of 13 shooting from 2 last night. And that's in large part due to Cliff really making things tough on him when he was actually in the game. I thought we got some good minutes out of Emmanuel Ogbol.
Yeah.
Just in general, like Rutgers, they know how they have to play to win games, and this is it. You can't fall down big because the offense isn't really there to get you back. You basically have to just out tough teams, grind them down, and eventually these teams will break. Michigan broke. Maryland broke. If not for another bogus call, the Derek Simpson technical that gave them 6 points in 26 game seconds, and we were up 9 with 2.5 minutes left. This game probably, gets out of hand at the end like the Michigan game did, but they were able to kind of claw back in because of the questionable technical on Derek Simpson. But again, toughness. They didn't break because of some calls that didn't go their way. They didn't break because, I think Jeremiah Williams, I saw this on Twitter, he played 11 minutes of game time with 4 fouls last night.
Yeah.
Cliff had to play a lot of the second half with 4 fouls. Pike handled the situations really well. He trusted his veterans not to put themselves in a situation to get that 5th foul. Cliff obviously got it at the end on another call that I thought was a little soft, but we found a way to win. And this is so important to get this momentum back because, we obviously have some games that still matter this season. Suddenly Rutgers has a pulse again. They were left for dead, but I wouldn't say they're totally left for dead anymore. Bart Torvik has a metric called wins above bubble, which basically says how many wins are you either above being on the bubble or below being on the bubble. Rutgers is currently at -1.5. Now, all their other metrics are terrible. I don't expect this to be a tournament team unless you win the Big Ten tournament or win out. But this just goes to show we were 1 or 2 games away this season from really, at least at this point in the season, from actually being a bubble team. Now, I put this out on Twitter. How many games do you think we win in addition? How many additional games do you think we win if we had Jeremiah Williams from game 1? Where do you think that's at if you had to put a number on it?
It's got to be in the 2 to 3 range. I think Princeton, for starters, you win that game. It's a totally different team with Jeremiah Williams out there. You can argue some other games, but I'm going to say Princeton and Ohio State definitely. Penn State, they just looked kind of lost, but that's not really that good of a Penn State team. They should have been able to pull that one out, especially on a home court advantage too. So I'd say 2 or 3, and I'd probably say those are the 3 games I'd pick from. Now you can argue other games. You could probably argue Mississippi State. you could probably argue even it's actually really tough to argue any others. Maybe even Purdue, because like Purdue, it was only an 8-point game when it's all said and done. And that 8 points is a little skewed because of late game free throws and stuff like that. But I think 2 to 3 is probably the mark I'd say. And those 2 to 3 games, I think even if you flip flop that Penn State game, the resume is really not as bad. It's just that quad 3 loss against Penn State really hurts. And the issue is that quad 3 is probably not going to change because I don't think Penn State's going to inch up to that top 75 range. So I think that's a tournament team probably. If not tournament team, they're a much better resume without that Penn State loss. That's just a little blemish on their entire resume right now, and probably keeps them out.
Yeah, it's easy to forget that Rutgers was down 2 points with 5 minutes left at home against Purdue.
Yeah.
So you get a little bit more out of your starters, which we've seen since Jeremiah Williams has come back. I do think that game was winnable. So let's just say safe number 2. And I don't think many people would push back against 2. So we're currently sitting at 12-10, 5-7 in conference. If you win 2 more games, that's 14-8, probably 6-5 in conference, or 5-6 if you say that we win the Princeton game. That is squarely on the bubble. Obviously, the Big Ten's down this year, so it's not like past years where if you're 8th in the Big Ten, you're probably safely on the bubble. You're probably not this year if you're 8th in the Big Ten.
Probably top 6.
Probably top 6, but still, that is, you could very much convince yourself, if we go on a run, if we finish the season off 6-3, we probably make the tournament. Not this year, obviously, because we're 12-10, but I do think we're a much different team with Jeremiah Williams. We've seen that the last 2 games, and I'd love to see that continue to get built on because we need Jeremiah Williams to be that alpha that he's shown these first 2 games next season when we're relying a lot on some young players, and he could kind of guide them, get things set on defense, just be the voice of the team, because you just can't expect freshmen to come in and be that guy. You're just it's just not in the cards for most guys. And even though the Ace and Dylan are different breeds of 18-year-olds, I still think it would be tough for them to come in and, command a team in their first, few months of being there, knowing they're probably not going to be there for more than a single season. So,
yeah, I'm really curious to see how he fits next year. I think he fits like a glove personally. And also Austin Williams is out. So how does he going to kind of fit in the rotation when he comes back? Does he just take Fernandez minutes completely? Does he take some Griffiths minutes? Does he take someone else's minutes? I don't really know. It's going to be interesting because he did play a significant role when he was healthy, and I think getting him back is going to help. Just adding a veteran presence too. Peichel said it before too. It's like when you're such a young team, you need those veteran guys. Like most of these teams that make runs are veteran teams. Like if you notice, like even the lower seeds, like a Princeton last year, who made a big run, they're all veterans for the most part.
Yep.
So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what his role is going forward and how he can help them. Because I think he's a solid defender and he's not a bad scorer, but he can get you like 6 to 8 on any given night. And honestly, for a team that struggles on offense and is 300 and just adjusted offense efficiency, it's any kind of little contribution helps. I do want to say this a little bit about Jeremiah Williams. If you listen to this pod at all this entire season, and people tweeted at us yesterday. We've been hyping this up forever. We know what we're talking about. Number 1. Number 2, for anyone saying he wasn't going to play this season, you were just, number 1, flat out wrong. Number 2, like watching him as a player in practice, you could tell he's different. He's just a really good player on every facet of the game. And he's by far the best guard. We've said it before. We've said it for months. It's finally coming to fruition. It's nice to see finally happen. Just need to put that out there.
Yeah, it is great to see, what you've seen in practice and you've heard from different people close to the program come to fruition because this guy has been a revelation for this team. And I do think having him allows Pike to really tighten up those rotations, especially down the stretch. Yesterday, he had to get really creative for most of the game because, like we said, 2 of the guys were in foul trouble most of the game. Yeah, I thought one interesting thing Pike did, he's played a little small ball yesterday. I think it might be the first time all season we didn't have one of Ogbol, Wolf, or Cliff on the court at some point. And I think his thought process there was they're trying to just foul Reese anytime he had the ball because he's a terrible free throw shooter. He was 3 for 9 yesterday from the line.
Yeah.
And one of those was a reshot too, which you almost never see this, a lane violation on a free throw. I can't believe they called it because if you just watch it, like it is a widely accepted thing that you just kind of like, as soon as the guy gets to the line and looks like he's about to shoot it, you just kind of start boxing out. Nobody ever seems to call it, but for some reason they decided to. I don't think it was a particularly egregious example of a lane violation either. So
he
thought
takes
that was
forever.
crap. He does take forever. Yep.
It's like Giannis. Like you got to count down to like 10, 11, 12. It's like, dude, just shoot the free throw.
Yep.
It's probably why you're missing.
Yep. But he played 5 guys over 20 minutes yesterday, and the other players who got into the game, Wolfalk 7 minutes, Emmanuel Ogbol 8 minutes, Noah Fernandez 13 minutes. Would have been interesting to see how that looked had Cliff and Jeremiah not gotten into foul trouble. Probably would have looked a lot like the Michigan game, honestly.
Yeah.
But
that's really I got one more final thought from this basketball game. Kevin Willard is the biggest crybaby bitch I've ever seen in my entire life. He does this every year, and Seton Hall fans are sitting there. If you would read the Maryland mentions about the final score tweet from yesterday, it's all Seton Hall fans just like, haha, I told you so, haha, I told you so. Like, he does this every year. He complains about something stupid, complains about travel. Oh, we had to go to East Lansing the other East Lansing the other day. And then we had to come home at 1 a.m. Like, no shit, dude. Every college athlete has to come home at 1 a.m. But it really wasn't that bad. And then, we had to go here. We had to go College Park. And it's like Rutgers just played the same exact schedule and still on the road.
Yep.
What are you talking about? Like, that's just such a bullshit excuse. And that was just and he does this, and like I said, he does this every year. He did it with Seton Hall multiple seasons in a row. Yep. And they're all laughing at him now. Even the Maryland fans are like, dude, stop. Like, it's just, it's too much. It's ridiculous. And you're going to blame it on travel of all things? Because get ready, buddy. You're going to Washington next year, and then you're going to fly home, and then you're going to go back out and play USC, and then you're going to fly to Minnesota, and then you're going to go play UCLA or Nebraska. So have fucking fun. And if you're going to do that, you might as well just do that every game and just complain, oh, you travel sick, you Big Ten conference. Don't be in the Big Ten. Go back to the ACC.
That was so soft by him. Like like you said, every single team in this league deals with the same exact travel schedule for the most part. Like maybe there's a team, like I was looking at something where like the remaining travel the rest of the season, and Purdue had like half of the miles that Rutgers had to travel for the rest of the season. But that's in a lot of ways like because they're in Indiana and Rutgers is in New Jersey, where every single game you have to travel to is going to be a few hundred miles, unless it's Maryland. Yeah. So it just is what it is. You knew that coming into this job, Kevin Willard, that you'd be traveling a lot because you're the head coach of the Maryland Terrapin basketball team, and you play teams in your conference in multiple time zones and that are as far as 1,000 miles away. So I don't want to hear it. That is total bullshit. And he's getting roasted, rightfully so, for that soft ass comment by him.
Maybe you should have stayed in the Big East, which has all your schools mostly right here. But even they're starting to expand west. They're looking at Gonzaga. They have Creighton.
Well, they're in Creighton, yeah. They're in Indiana for Butler. Like
Butler, DePaul, Marquette, like Xavier. Yeah. Like you're still God, I hate him, man. I know us bald people are supposed to stick together, but fuck that guy.
Yeah, you're breaking the code for good reason here.
That's
he deserves it.
He sucks. Anyway, sorry, had to go on a little rant there.
No, it's all good. I thought you saw again the stark difference in starter contributions versus bench contributions. The bench was 4 of 16 shooting. It's just 25%. Starters shot 18 of 40, which is 45%. It's the second game where you've seen a pretty stark contrast. You got to hope that somebody can be that spark plug off the bench. Hyatt was that for a little bit yesterday, but I think ideally they want Gavin to be that guy. But Gavin was 0 for 4 yesterday. I think he was 0 for 5 the last game. He's been in a slump. You got to just hope he shoots out of it, like we've said, basically all season. I'm still really high on the guy, but it would be nice to have a little bit more reliable scoring on the bench, or even on the starting lineup. But
I would like to see Andre Hyatt do something, man. Like this is your fifth year, your final year. Like you were maybe the team's best scorer at one point. But yeah, he's just been struggling mightily, and I don't know if it's a bench thing or maybe it's just a confidence thing too. Because if you saw maybe not this post game or one before it, someone said it was either Knight or Peichel. Someone said something about Hyatt's going through some stuff, and everyone's like, what stuff's he going through? And it's like you don't know what these kids go through in a personal life.
Yeah.
It could be anything from a girlfriend breaking up with him to something with his family, a family issue. I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but I need him to pick it up a little bit on the basketball court, especially because I need some kind of contribution off that bench. We've seen it so many times under Peichel. Like, starters are great, but the bench is awful. Remember it was Notre Dame was the playing game, and then the game before that, I'm talking 2 or 3 years ago now. In the playing game before that, they had a combined 0 points in 2 games on the bench. Like, it's been like this forever, and I just need someone to step it up, whether it be him, like you said, Griffiths, Fernandes. I kind of starting to cringe when you get on the court, but I just need you to do something. Go to the rim, attack the rim, get fouled. You're the best free throw shooter on the team. Just keep getting fouled, like on drives. I don't know. But I need something from that bench. Ogbol, though, solid performance. He's getting better.
Yeah, Ogbol definitely was better tonight than he was, or last night than he was the previous game. Again, you just got to hope it's rust, but he gave us some actual minutes where he contributed both on the glass. He had a nice putback. Can't teach that size he has, and it's clear that he takes the weight room very seriously. He's very developed for a guy coming in as, probably a 20-year-old, if I had to guess. So,
yeah.
So looking ahead, Rutgers plays at home on Saturday at noon against Wisconsin. Wisconsin is ranked, I think, 11th right now. They are in the top 3 in terms of the Big Ten standings. They're in a bit of a slump, though. So they've lost 2 straight. They lost at Nebraska last Thursday. Then they lost at home versus Purdue on Sunday. They play on the road tonight against Michigan at 7 p.m. So they're going to be coming in and playing 3 games in their last 7 days. Another road tilt, the 3rd road game in 4 games. I'm sorry. This is a game I see as winnable for Rutgers. Rutgers has played Wisconsin well, at least recently. They went to Wisconsin late in the season last year and won. This is a winnable game. They're very different style-wise from, teams like, Maryland and Michigan, but that's in part because they're a better team. They're certainly not going to be an easy game, but a game that I feel way better about Rutgers competing in today than I did last week.
Yeah. Coming in on a 2-game losing streak definitely helps Rutgers, or maybe not a 2-game losing streak. I forgot they play.
Yeah, they played Michigan tonight, which they probably win, but yeah.
Yeah, so 2 out of 3, though. Still losing 2 out of 3 is not good. They got a couple scares, too. And, I mean, number one, it was a serious scare because they lost to Penn State. Mind you, an away game, which this is an away game for them, too. They also came very close to losing to a bad Minnesota team. So there's a legitimate shot here. I think if you told me this game was away for Rutgers, I'd probably say probably not. But since it's a home game, Jersey Mike's Arena, I think they have a legitimate shot here. And you just got to hope Michigan can kind of put up a good fight against them and, make them a little tired.
Yeah. Every game Rutgers has played against Wisconsin in the last 9 matchups has either been an overtime game or a single-digit loss or win for Rutgers. So Rutgers is 4-4 in their last 8 against Wisconsin, and then they had an overtime game that they lost in the Big Ten tournament in 2016, 2017. So they played them tough. You just got to hope this momentum continues on. I will definitely be betting the Rutgers money line whenever that game comes available because, the rack is going to be absolutely on fire on Saturday. I assume that it's going to be a visit day for recruits. Hopefully it's not.
Dead period.
It's not going to be. Dead period. Perfect. So what that means is that a third of the student section,
whole student section
will be filled with students and not just, bumps on a log who aren't even paying attention or the entire football team that leaves, at halftime and leaves a giant open wound in the student section.
Yeah. Definitely going to be interesting, but full student section, that's all that matters.
Yeah, so if you don't have tickets already, you can go to SeatGeek, and if
Ooh,
you do
good
not have a
call.
SeatGeek
Good
account yet,
call.
you can use the promo code Rutgers Rivals, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase on SeatGeek. So if you need tickets for this game or any game into the future, since the only way to buy any Rutgers tickets outside of through Rutgers directly is through SeatGeek, might as well use
Mm-hmm.
our promo code and get into this game. It's one of the few
And
Saturday games we have all season at home, so great opportunity. It's supposed to be a beautiful day. It's supposed to be in the 60s on Saturday. So
ooh,
if you got nothing to do,
maybe a
bring
little
your
tailgate
friends, bring
action.
your family, get a little tailgate action in, maybe visit campus, get some lunch. Perfect day to be on campus, hopefully for a Rutgers win too.
Yeah. No, sounds good to me. Sounds like a good day.
Sounds like a great day. I don't have anything else basketball wise, but we do have a few other football news items to hit on. Um, we mentioned in the last podcast, obviously the commitment, but also some coaching rumors. What are you hearing on the Andy
Yes.
Aurich front with regard to the Harvard job?
So Andy Aurich is a certified candidate for the Harvard head coaching job. He's one of 4 finalists among 2 in-house candidates. One that's been there, their former defensive coordinator or current defensive coordinator, who's been there for 15 years, Harvard grad, Harvard football alum. Played, I think he's 3rd in all time in tackles for the Crimson. So I mean, it makes a lot of sense to go that route. But if they're going to go the out of house route, which some have suggested they are, after 30 straight years of the same coach, Ulrich would probably be the main candidate. Now, there's also a South Carolina quality control assistant or something like that. But I think, from what I've been told, is Ulrich is the main outside candidate. So it's basically just determining if you want to stay in house or go out of house. I think Andy, if I had to guess, is probably going to leave if he gets the offer. I think he leaves. I think they're probably going to offer him because I think they're going to try to switch it up a little bit because minus this past season where I believe they won a share of the Ivy League. I think Tim Murphy's also had some struggles over the past couple of years, finishing 4th, 3rd, obviously no COVID year, and 6th over the past 3 seasons before this one. So it would make sense for them to kind of go a different route. But you never know. That being said, I got my hot board ready to go.
Any names on that hot board that you want to kind of give us a preview on?
Yeah, so John McNulty. No,
John McNulty.
I
That would
mean,
make a lot of sense.
it would. I mean, it's not crazy. Alabama ties, now former OC. I just don't know. From what I was told when he kind of left, there was kind of some bad blood between him and a certain athletic director. So take that one for what it's worth.
Yep.
But he was Notre Dame's tight end coach for a couple of years, produced a couple NFL guys there. But the other 2 I'm keeping a close eye on would be Kirk Shiraka type ties. And that's Clay Patterson, who was 2018 to 2021 Minnesota tight ends coach. Obviously, Kirk was there from 2018 to 2019. And then 2020, I think he left to Penn State. And then 2021, he came back to Minnesota. So he's a big reason why Brevin Spanford was as good as he was, one of the best tight ends in the country for Minnesota. Great receiver threat. And then he also has some other ties. He was at Colorado for a year, South Florida for last season as tight ends coach, and now is the co-OC / tight end / inside receivers. Gave him every title in the book just to get him there at Kent State, who just got hired last week, I think 2 weeks ago. So it might be a little weird and bizarre to hire just a random Kent State assistant again. I shouldn't say random because he does have ties to Rutgers, but it's one to keep an eye on. And then the other one that's kind of intriguing to me, and this kind of goes hand in hand with how the offensive staff is built, for the most part, minus maybe Demir Shaw, who's like the young buck of the staff. But if you want a veteran guy, it'd be Bill Kenny. So Bill Kenny worked with Shiraka for several years at Western Michigan. He was a tight ends coach from 2013 to 2019, stayed on staff at Western Michigan even after PJ left. So PJ Fleck connection, Kirk Shiraka connection, and also spent 1989 to 2011 with Penn State. In between those years, sometime, I think it was 1990 to 95, Shiano was also at Penn State. So Shiano ties, PJ Fleck ties, Kirk Shiraka ties, they all check a bunch of boxes. Now, that being said, he's also a Northeast native from Massachusetts. He's also produced several tight end guys over the years. During his coaching career, it says 8 All Big Ten honorees, 6 All-Americans, and 47 All-Big Ten academic honorees. So it kind of checks a lot of boxes. The only issue is he's really kind of a little older, and that's where it goes hand in hand with how the staff's built, with like a Dave Brock, with a Kirk Shiraka, a Pat Flaherty. I'm not picking on them because of their age. I'm just saying more veteran coaches, maybe get another veteran. If anyone can fix the tight end room, it'd probably be this guy. He did sit out the 2023 season and didn't coach anywhere, so maybe you just say, hey, you want to make a $400K real quick? Come join the staff, and then we'll see what happens. I mean, it's interesting. The only reason he left Penn State for Western Michigan too was because they had a new coach. Obviously, the whole Paterno thing happened, and Bill O'Brien was hired and just didn't retain him. But PJ Fleck picked him right up, and guy knows how to coach football. So between him and Clay Patterson, I'd be a little shocked if it wasn't those two. Steve Shimko's out there technically now. Because, again, kind of weird how that works. Bill O'Brien is going to probably get Boston College, and I don't see him retaining Steve Shimko or most of that staff, honestly. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so Steve Shimko has been at Boston College now for the last 4 seasons. He started off as their tight ends coach, got moved up to quarterbacks, then he was their OC/quarterbacks coach this past season. But obviously now he's not going to be there much longer because Jeff Hafley left for the Green Bay defensive coordinator job. He didn't coach tight ends anywhere else. He primarily actually coached quarterbacks, both at Garden City Community College. He was an offensive assistant with the Seattle Seahawks and the assistant QB coach there as well. So some really interesting games. We've been kind of refining the way that we make these hot boards to follow Schiano's tendencies. This would make a lot of sense. His preference now seemingly for actually experienced coaches who have been there, done that, over these, hopeful recruiting sharks that didn't end up being recruiting sharks. Anyway, is there anything else football related that you wanted to hit on before you head out of here?
Not that I can think of. Spring ball's around the corner. Recruiting dead period, so there's not really much to talk about. It's signing day, which is weird.
Yeah, quote unquote signing day.
Yeah, this is. I'm all in favor of just dumping this one, to be honest, or just making this one the official one. I'm tired of 2 signing days because the second one's just pointless. Yeah, some kids get offers late, but I think at this point you have to make a decision and kind of just pick one or the other. Or I don't even know what you do. I'm glad I'm not in charge because I would have no idea or clue what to even do and how to fix this whole situation. But Super Bowl Sunday. I don't know if we're going to record again or not before then, but Isaiah Pacheco MVP. You're going to be the first one since Terrell Willis at running back. Just saying, if you want to throw some money on it. I did. So
Terrell Davis, you mean?
Terrell Davis, yeah. Who do I say? Terrell Willis. Yeah, I meant Terrell Davis.
Yep.
Yeah, first one since Terrell Davis. I'm calling it now, so mark it down. Not always right, but I'm right 60% of the time, 100% of the time. So
whatever that means, yeah.
Yep, exactly.
All right, guys. Well, thank you to everyone who is a new reviewer. We've seen a bunch of those roll through since we started our promotion. We're still planning on giving away the Rutgers gnome in the next couple weeks. If you haven't seen it already, if you missed yesterday's show,
there he is.
This is the gnome. It's a Rutgers gnome. If you would like to be entered into the contest, you have to either submit a podcast review on your favorite podcasting app. We'll go and collect those in a couple weeks. Or you have to comment on this video below. Comment with the title or with the comment "Gnome Me." So just gnome me. A lot of people said "know me" in the last episode, but whatever, we'll count that anyway. And you'll be entered in, and we'll do a live drawing. But for me and Richie, this has been another edition of the Night Report podcast. Signing off.
Stop.